I used to say, imagine a world where you didn't have access, but I don't have to anymore. This is the world we all live in. How does that feel? That feeling where you want to go somewhere, but someone tells you no, you can't, you're not allowed. That feeling may be new to you, but for the disability community, that's been happening for decades. In Philadelphia, we have the largest disability community in the entire US. That's right, we're both the poorest city and the most disabled. I want you to imagine that you have a family member with autism. Now, maybe that's not imaginary for you. Maybe you know that life. But imagine your family goes to a museum, spends $80 on admission, and 15 minutes later, your family member becomes overwhelmed and has to leave. After spending $80, would you go back? Maybe not. What if you only paid $8? At ArtReach, we believe that good design creates a more accessible world, so we've designed a better way to access the arts. In partnership with Philly's disability community, ArtReach created the Access Philly card that anyone with a disability can purchase for $75 per year. That's right, built by the community for the community. Cardholders get $2 admission to 52 museums and theaters in Greater Philadelphia, and they can bring up to 3 people with them every single visit. That's $8 to go to a museum. That's $8 for live theater. In 2019, we secured $250,000 to plan and implement the Access Philly card. Today, I'm asking you to invest $65,000 to support marketing efforts so we can grow this program. We're partnering with Comcast, who's contributing advertising time to raise awareness of the card. You'll see your investment on the sides of SEPTA buses and up in the skyline on the Pico Crown. You'll hear your investment on the radio. Most importantly, you'll see it in audiences when you go to museums and theaters. Your investment will put the Access Philly card in the hands of 8,000 people. Now, these cards, they only cost $24 each, all in to produce. So we're going to net $408,000 of new renewable revenue. That revenue will be reinvested into an accessibility grants fund so that arts organizations have the funds they need to create new accessible programming. Cardholders, they're going to generate 64,000 visits to museums and theaters in 1 year, and our data shows they'll spend $16 each visit per person on admission and peripheral spending. That's over $1 million of new revenue for the arts. Finally, cardholders will save $896,000 on admission fees. Your $65,000 commitment will dramatically change cultural visitation for people with disabilities, and in the process, you become part of the solution as we design a more accessible world together. Thanks, everyone. That's a great question because we've put a lot of thought into what the post-COVID response to museum and theater visitation will be like. What's great about the Access Philly card is that it promotes shorter visits that limits people's exposure and allows people to visit more frequently without taking the upfront admission hit every single time. So when we look at somebody who wants to go to a museum but maybe doesn't want to spend 4 hours on a really busy Saturday, they don't have to spend all 4 hours there. They're not taking the full $80 hit. They can take an $8 hit and go back a little bit later or later on in the week when it becomes a little bit safer and they feel a little bit better. The reason we've thought about this is because our population, the one that built this, is at one of the highest risks of exposure to the virus. And we want to maintain their safety while still allowing them to get out and enjoy the arts. I mean, the $250,000 was great. We used $148,000 of it to bring in a team of 8 strategy professionals who helped create the feasibility study and the implementation plan. So that part was just amazing to be able to have that kind of outside perspective. We partnered a lot with Disability Pride Philadelphia and some other centers for independent living for people with disabilities so that we got end user impact to really drive the direction of this program. 65,000 of that came from the board. I'm sorry, the 148 was separate. 65,000 came from the board of directors at ArtReach because they just believe in this expansion overall. And then another 42,000 was brought in, and we used that to settle some infrastructure issues with our website, our database. So now we're up and running with our staffing that we need to get this program off the ground. We have a plan in place that we know is going to work because it was built with the community. And we have the infrastructure already in place to ensure a really strong delivery of product. You know, in Philadelphia, despite having the largest disability community in the country, there isn't a dedicated funding pool for any arts organization to create more accessibility. So we still have these organizations hiding behind ugly terms like grandfathered in and undue burden. We just want to eliminate all of that. So what we want to do is create a really simple, right? I'm a nonprofit director. I like simple grant applications. We want to create a really simple, rapid response grant fund that can only be used for accessibility, either from a capital improvement perspective or from a programmatic perspective. And we want organizations to be able to apply to that once we have the revenue generated from the card sales, so that they can make these more accessible programs more readily available to the community. The long-term goal of that is that the more programs that are accessible and the more organizations that are doing accessible programs, I believe will feed into the Access Philly program as we add more and more partners and allow it to grow, increasing the return on investment for cardholders overall.